Hi all, welcome back to Learning Partner. So I'm starting just a new series where we will be discussing Angular interview questions. So it won't be topic by topic because I want to explain the theoretical part plus the practical implementation also. So that's why I'm just not combining everything in a single video. So let's say component, pipe, services, based on what are the 6 to 7 topics mostly we have. I will create a dedicated video for those and one or two more videos just to cover remaining things like buildings, advanced things, micro front end, server side rendering, Angular 17, what we new have, all those things. Okay, so let's start. So starting with like component first, we are going to focus. So this is just an interview question application I have created. I have created a same video previous days back. You can find the live version over here, but the in local also I have run the projects, that same project, because I want to showcase some coding scenarios also, like what we know from the components. Now, so first question is like, what is component? So whenever someone will ask you, most of the guys will get confused, like what to tell, like when someone asks you what is that component. So just follow the Angular definition. Components are nothing but a basic building block of an Angular app, correct? An Angular app will have multiple components, correct? Without component, there won't be an Angular app because UI we can render whatever the template or the HTML page we talk about, that are nothing but we can pass it to the component, correct? Again, component is nothing but a directive because when we say directive, component is also a kind of directive, but with a template, correct? So here the same thing is mentioned. Angular components are the subset of directives always associated with the template. Unlike other directives, only one component can be instantiated for a given element. So directives, let's say we have one element, we can add multiple directives. Let's say you have a text box. There you can use ng model. If you have created another custom directive for validation, you can add it also. So on one element, we can add multiple directive. This is what it is explained, right? So this is the basic theory you need to explain when someone asks you like what is component. You can refer the exact same definition or you can create your own also, because knowing everything is a different thing, but when we want to explain it, we kind of read from multiple sides and then while answering we mix all of them and answer is something else, right? So write all the questions whatever I'm explaining, write in your own word also what you explain so that you can explain in a better way. Going back to next question, component decorators. So decorators, we will discuss decorator once we jump to that. But as we have a question over here related to components, so decorator is a way by which Angular knows what type of TypeScript class that is going to be, right? So here you can see in component decorator, we have so many things like selector, just a unique identifier, then template URL, style URL. Again, so many things are there, just like change detection, encapsulation, entry component, interpolation. Like how do we write the interpolation? Let me just show you. So we write interpolation by using curly braces like this. But we can, instead of this, we can use another symbol also. So for that, in a component decorator, you need to add interpolation colon. How do we pass it? String. It needs array. Let's say and or let's use percent comma percent like this, or what interpolation must be array with two elements string type. Okay. Now what I have done in my component, this question card component, I have provided interpolation as percent. So now here, instead of this, I can use percent. Let's see if we are able to see the topic name or not. Let's save. Let's select any language. So here you can see topic name. Let me just inspect. Oh, I have disabled everything. So question name is, let me just add one over here so that we can identify. Why it is saying missing? Let me just try once again. It's not coming. Why is it? Error is there, unexpected end of character in your. Is it 2 times? Let's check. Oh, still error is there. Application failed. Let's try. Still we have. Wait. Let me just check. Some other error is there, I think. On which line it is saying? Let me just pause it and let me just check it once again. Yeah, sorry. So what we did, we changed the interpolation sign. Instead of we instead of default, we changed the %%. So whatever everywhere it was there, no? So that's why it was giving the error. So wherever now we have changed the default sign, so we cannot use the interpolation, that curly braces. Let me just select any language. So now you can see only language X. I have just commented everything. So now I can, instead of double curly braces, I can use my whatever the symbol I have given. So no one, it doesn't matter what this question doesn't is not, no one is going to change like this. But some interviewer will ask you like what things are there which you can do in component decorator. So that's why you should be aware, like, yes, we can change that default interpolation also. So let's turn it, change it back. Right? So many things are there. Standalone, imports. Now standalone is a new thing what we have got. Then entry components also we can, entry component, I think in Angular 17 is removed. Yeah. Encapsulation is there. So many things are there. These are nothing but the various configuration what we can do in component. Let's go back. Components. So you can see these are the various. Again, we will be discussing style URL, template URL. This video we will be saying. Correct? Now, next question is what is template? So whenever we say a template now, it's a very easy question, but we somehow get confused like what to tell, correct? So template is just an HTML view. Obviously, Angular is an application, web application. Obviously, when we say web, we will have some HTML. So template is a thing by which we control the view of our application. So you can see a template is a HTML view where we can display data by binding controls to the properties of an Angular component. You can store component template, means component template, how you can pass the template. So there are two ways. Either you can create an inline template like this, or you can pass an external file URL also, just like that. So clear, you can define inline template like just like this. Either you can use a template. If you use the template, you need to create HTML code over here only. If you have passed template URL, then you need to pass some HTML file. So someone will ask you like, or in some project there, they might follow, what do we say, uh, architecture where they will create a component, but HTML, they won't put it inside this folder. They will keep all the HTML file into a separate folder. Correct? Because if you see over here, what we do over here, we pass the reference. Doesn't matter if it is in this folder or somewhere else. Right? Just to confuse you, they will ask you like, is it possible that we can store HTML into another folder and there and we can use it over here? Yes, obviously it is possible. It is just a location. Doesn't matter where it is stored. You just need to pass the HTML file reference. Correct? There I have data changes. Yeah, let me just remove it. Let's move on to next question. I will open over here. So template is done. Then coming back to the next question, like what is lifecycle event? So lifecycle events or lifecycle hooks, forget about Angular, just consider like an HTML page. When any HTML page is rendered onto the browser, there might be certain events now which might be happening behind the scene. So just like that, when any component get rendered into a browser or in an Angular application, so there are certain events which occur, let's say before component initializing, after component initialize, before component is getting installed. So many events can be there. So just like that with Angular also, we have certain life cycle events. We call it as the hooks also. Again, you need to remember this, what we can say, sequence of the execution also. So first, ng on changes. Now here, there might be a question like constructor will get execute first or the ng on changes. Obviously, constructor will get initialized first because constructor is a default thing which get initialized when the component is getting initialized, correct? Because we in Angular we work with TypeScript. So a TypeScript suppose some of those concept. So constructor, when any whatever the theory you know from the constructor, like constructor get executed once the class object is created, just like that. So constructor will get first initialized, then the lifecycle event. So ng on changes, ng on init, ng do check, ng after content init, ng after content check, ng after view init, ng after view check, and the lastly ng on destroy. So there are around 8 lifecycle event, correct? But while explaining, if you are a fresher now, so make sure you tell this all correctly. And at least you should know what is the purpose of ng on init, ng after view init, and ng on destroy. Everyone will ask, if you are a fresher, they will ask you ng on init, ng after view init, where it is, yeah, and ng on destroy. These three, at least you should know. But for the experienced guys, all the lifecycle events should be understood clearly and in which scenario we have to use this. Okay, make sure you are preparing it properly before appearing for the interview. Because if you have more than, let's say, 3 years also now, everyone will try to confuse you. Where do we use the do check? How, in which scenario you are going to use ng on changes? What do you do in ng after view init? What do you do in ng on change, ng on destroy? The cleanup activity and unsubscribe and everything, whatever you want to do, right? So make sure you are preparing that very properly. So that's it. Then data binding. It's not advanced question, but a normal question. So we talk about template. So what is data binding? So there are multiple ways by which we can pass the data from temp DOM to .ts or .ts to HTML or DOM. Okay. So based on, there are mainly two ways, one-way data binding and the two-way data binding. In one way, again, there are two ways. From component to DOM means if we have created any variable, that variable in which ways, in how many ways we can bind, either interpolation or the property binding. Property binding means in square bracket, we can pass the any property of any element, whether it is a class, style, min length, max length, required, placeholder, type, whatever the properties you know, all we can make it dynamic. So from component to DOM, we have interpolation and the property binding. Then vice versa, from DOM to .ts, right? So we just have an event. So how event means we can pass some data also with the event. So that's why. Now coming back to two-way data binding, we have ng model over here. So ng model. So whenever someone asks you the data binding, if you explain it properly, now he won't go in detail. Just make sure like you are telling there are mainly two ways, one way and two way. In one way, again, we have this way, and in two way, we have ng model. And while using ng model, you can just inform like if you have to use the ng model, we have to import forms module. Okay. Whenever you are answering any question, don't let what we can say interviewer to ask another question based on that answer. Make sure you are covering everything. Not in a, don't go in detail in every answer, but try to cover it in a short way so that interviewer will know like, yes, you know everything. Okay, let's move on. Now, it's an advanced question. Like what are the various ways by which we can communicate with different components? So there are possibly two ways or two scenarios. If we have parent to child relationship, we can use input and output and the view child. So let me just show you the input output now. So this question card component is a reusable one. So here you can see I have created one input, that is question, and one output on card click. And from this function, I'm emitting this. Now this component I'm using in my home component, like over here. So here you can see I'm passing the data to my input parameter, and the question card has one output, that is on card click. So that I'm receiving like this over here. So this is input because home component is my parent component. Inside that I'm using app question card. So this will be my child component. So if we have to send the data from parent to child, we use input. And if we have to send the data from child to parent, we use the output to send the data from child to the parent. And we accept the data like this. Make sure you every time we have to add a dollar event only over here, nothing else. So that's this. Again, we can create a view child reference also. View child as in, let me just create. So in my home component, I'm using a question card over here. So I can create a view child reference of that. So at the rate view child round bracket. Let me just add an import. Yeah, import is added. Now of view child means what we are creating instance view child instance of that component. So here we have to say question card component. Question card. And obviously data type will be question card component only like this. Yeah, this is just the default warning error. So this is how we create the instance of view child. So whatever the properties now here we have multiple, but just to understand this dot question card dot. So here you can see in question card component, we had several methods and several functions so that I can access it over here. Got it? So from parent component, we are trying to access the properties defined in the child component. So this is also one way by which we can do component communication. Then if we don't have parent to child relationship, so what are the various ways? First, create a common service, and in that service, you can create some variable. You can store some data into variable and you can use it. Another way by using subject and subject behavior. Correct? We can create subject or subject behavior and we can emit the data and we can subscribe that also. Then by passing the data by routing also. This some interviewer will say like, yeah, this is not a way, but yeah, this is a way. From one component, we can navigate to another component and we can pass the data. So obviously we are passing the data. Another way is, this is not the actual way, just a round or a workaround. So we can store some data into session storage or local storage. And when we redirect, we can read the data just like that. So these are the all possible ways by which we can pass data from one component to another. Make sure you are implementing every way, input, output, view, child, service, subject, everything you are implementing for experienced guys. But for fresher, even if you understand everything and if you are able to explain it, that is also good enough. So view child, we have already seen. Again, I will repeat. So view child, there are two ways to use the view child. First, to get the reference of an element means whatever we used to do in JavaScript document.get element by ID, we used to get the object of that element. So same like that in Angular team, what Angular says, don't use DOM APIs directly, means document.get element, don't use it. They have created a view child, use that to connect to the DOM APIs. So let's say we have a paragraph tag over here. So what we can do, we have created a hash property property reference variable over here. Then we in .ts, we create a element view child like this, and whatever the property variable you give over here, that you need to provide it over here. So now in element title, whatever the things we used to do with document.get element by ID, that whole thing, you can add a dynamic text, you can add a class, you can add a style. So like this you can do. With component, we have already seen like this. But make sure that component is loaded into your component in your parent component. Otherwise, it will be undefined. Correct? Now coming back to standalone component. So this is the new thing what we have got from Angular 16 and Angular 17. It is in the stable mode. So standalone components are the new type of Angular component that does not need to be declared in ng module. So whatever you know till now, whenever we create component, that component class name will get added to the app module. Let me just show you. So this is Angular 17 project. So we don't get app module. So we get app config. Okay. Let me just show you the another project, which is with Angular older version. This is older version. So here you can say declaration is a array where all components class name will be added. Okay. But in Angular 17, we don't have app module. So obviously ng module is not there. So all the components are by default standalone component like this. So if you have to use this component into another component, so just like that, question card is also my standalone component. And this component I have to use into my home component. So in my .ts here, I have to import it. See, if I have in Angular 17, if all the components are standalone, if you have to use one component into another, right? So you need to import that into that import section. Then only you can use it. Otherwise, you won't be able to use it. So this is the standalone component. How do we declare it? By making standalone property true. And remember, it came from Angular 16 version, not just the 17. In 16 version, it was in the beta mode, but in 17, it is now stabilized. Now, this is kind of an advanced question. Only if you have more than 3 experience, then only you can prepare. So first way, like question is how many ways by which we can use ng model directive. ng model is a directive. Make sure you know that. Someone will try to confuse you. Like, is ng model a directive? Is router outlet a directive? Is router link a directive? Yes, all those are directives. Okay, these are just the default directive. Now, how, like first way, how do we use? We create a variable and we bind it to the input element by using ng model. Everyone knows this. Second way is we can create a variable or the property into .ts, just like in the for loop. This is nothing but a variable, right? So to a text box, now I'm using this instance variable and a property, whatever I have in the customer list, that I'm binding it over here. So once I change any value, that value will get changed to that object from that array. This kind of code we normally do in case of inline editing. Third way, this is very advanced. I have also just learned few days back. Remember, we use async pipe. When we use async pipe in case of interpolation, it's not like that we can use async pipe in interpolation. Let's say we have a observable state name. Okay, it is going to store a data type of string. And while initializing only, I have emitted some default text. Now this observable I can use on the text box, but instead of writing like this, banana bracket, we can just write square bracket and ng model. This is kind of a property binding, but we can call it as a ng model. And here you need to use async pipe and the observable. So there are specific scenarios if you are working with, if in your project you have component store or in NGRX installed. So let's say you are getting a value from any observable, and that once you get the value, you need to render it to the text box. So this is how you do it. I hope it is clear. Try to implement it. It's just for the experience guys, not for the fresher up to 0 to 2 years. Even if you don't know it, it's okay. Moving on to next. In how many ways we can pass template to the component? This we have already seen. Either we can pass the external template by using template URL, or with the template, you can create the HTML template over here. This we use when we have very small HTML code. I have done this somewhere. Let me just show you where I have done it. Yeah. So here you can see, let's say I'm creating a component where I just need to show some name, value, or something. So instead of template URL, I can use the template and create my HTML code over here. Okay. So this is one way. And same like that, how many ways you can pass the CSS or include the CSS file? So first is like style URL, and you can pass the reference of the URL. Then another way is you can create array of classes like this over here. Instead of style URL, you need to use styles. Like this, you will be able to create it. Now, let's move back. Template reference variable. So some interviewer will directly ask you like, what is template reference variable? It's pretty clear. You will able to understand if you have done it. But someone will say, how do we create variable in template? Obviously, we don't create a variable in a template. We cannot write name colon string like that in template. We use component for that. But someone, just to confuse you, they will just change the question like that. So template reference variable allows you to refer to an element in the template and access its properties or methods in the component. It is used by using hash symbol, so hash property. So someone will call you as a hash property also. Based on the interviewer, what kind of keywords or the words they know, they will use like that. So let's say I need to store the form value inside a variable, and I will pass this variable on a button click on save or submit. So I can Like this, we have created a variable, property variable, and we have stored ng form into it. And this we can pass on the submit function. Just like that, for the validation, we create this kind of hash property and waste to our ng model over here. So this is also a template variable. Again, we have seen somewhere in view chat also we have seen. See, so this we can pass. So this object means property reference, we can pass it over here, right? So this is nothing but a template reference. Now, what is input, output, and event emitter? So again, once we go to that advanced question, we will again discuss the decorators in detail. But input, outputs are nothing but the decorators. These are property decorators specifically. Okay, so input and output are nothing but a decorator, which is a property decorator. We use it to pass the data. We have already seen it, correct? So this is how we create the input. This is how we create the output. Here question is there. Instead of this is nothing but string, number, if any class, interface, or any also. Whatever the data you are going to pass, that data type you can pass it over here. By using emit, we pass it back to the parent component. So this is all that. Now this is the last question, host listeners. So host listener, again, for freshers, at least you should know what is host listener. But if you are an experienced developer, doesn't matter if you have used the host listener in your project or not, but you in your practice project, you should at least implement. So host listeners are the decorators provided by host listener decorator. Again, it is a decorator, but a method decorator. They allow you to listen for the events on the host or the element of a directive. Okay. So this is just an example context menu. You know, right click. See, I'm here. I'm able to do the right click. Let's go to my local version. So here I'm doing the right click. You might hear the sound, but that that console menu is not coming. Why is it? Because in my, where is that? I have done it. Home component. I'm listening to this context menu option. Whenever you do the right click now, that some browser might emitting some event now. So that is context menu. So see what I'm doing. I'm just bypassing that or preventing that event. If I comment this, let's save. Why we are getting this error? Nothing else I have done. We are getting our error over here. Okay, because of this. Let me just comment it. Okay, here it was there. Let's see. Question card has no initializer. Let me just comment it. Now, what I have done, I'm just commenting this event.preventable. I am commenting. Now, if I do the right click, see, context menu is opening. This is called as a context menu, those who don't know. Now, if I enable it, I won't get the console click option. This is what I have done just to secure my answers. I don't want anyone to copy paste. So that's why I have done it. One more host listener I will be informing you, that is in question card component. Let's say I need to restrict copy paste, like the what do we say, question data or the question answer are very premium. I don't want anyone to use my questions. So I will, obviously they can do inspect and they will get it anyhow. But for normal user, up to a limit, I can restrict that. So you know clipboard data, clipboard, whenever we copy anything, see, this I have copied and I can paste it over. Okay, so I have disabled it currently. So you can see here I have created host listener, document.copy, document.paste. So I won't be able to copy paste in my page, this particular component. Let me just comment it for now. Okay, so I have just commented all the code. So now if you see, if I copy the router events, Control C, I can paste it because I have just disabled it. But let's enable it. Now I won't be able to copy paste. Save. Because I'm preventing that event. So now even I'm able to select Control C. I'm not able to wait. This is the old copied one. Let's copy tree shaking. See, still it is pasting the old one because in the clipboard, we are not able to store the latest copied text because I have disabled it. So host listener, at least this kind of example you should know. Doesn't matter. I know like in every project we are not going to implement this kind of scenario, but at least in your practice project you should know. Whenever you are appearing for the interview, make sure you, when whatever the topic, is it a custom directive, is it a custom pipe, make sure you have proper example ready when you explain it in the interview. Don't just say like some random example. Make sure you create your own example, own directive, own pipe, own custom host listener, and that explain to the interviewer so that he will understand, yes, you have done it, you have created it. He won't go in detail. If everyone will say click event and everything, however, don't say that. Na? Use clipboard, scroll events like this, or context menu. Okay. So that's the end of the component. All the questions are available over here. You can read. I will be keep on adding the questions again. This load mode doesn't do anything. It is just by default over there. But I will be keep on adding some new things about the component. If you know some questions, you can share it to me on LinkedIn. Again, I will be creating proper answers to be in a readable format, and I will add those questions over here. So if you are already preparing, so many questions are already here for all the topics, you can go through and make a use of it. So that's it with this video. Thank you all. And if you are new over here, please do like and subscribe my channel. Thank you.